But this is Cafeteria Gnomes, a Lake Scatterwood Tales short story for middle grade readers by J. Wilburn. So completely, tonally different from Secrets of the Tooth Fairy. Let's see if I can give this one its first edit, maybe make some improvements, correct some errors, and then we'll move on to our reading for today, and that'll be it. Skippy and Tina were very, very excited to be in charge of quality control of the Lake Scatterwood Cafeteria Gnomes. It was an important job. Already found a typo. That is what editing is for, though. Everyone was depending on them to get this right. I'm excited, Skippy said, but I'm nervous. But I'm excited, but I get the idea, Tina said. Don't freak out. They stood in the shadows underneath the serving table as the camp counselors filled trays for the campers moving down the line. This seems like the perfect time to freak out, Skippy said. They serve 3 meals a day. Tina patted him on the shoulder. If things don't go perfect now, then we still have dinner. Skippy shook his head, causing his little red hat to flop from side to side. I don't know. If lunch doesn't work out, then everyone will be hungry until dinner. We'll just do our best. It'll be okay. You'll see. Most of the campers had found their places at the long wooden tables. The noise level rose to a dull roar. The wooden surfaces of the camp mess hall made it sound louder with all the echoes. Everyone was distracted with the food and conversation. Now was the time to move. Skippy stuck his head out. He looked both ways and then up to be sure the path was clear. When you're a gnome, you have to remember to look up too. He gave the signal and all the cafeteria gnomes scattered across the floor and then under the tables. Tina stuck close to Skippy and a few of the other gnomes joined them under their table. They stayed close to the center and moved slowly. You had to be careful under the tables. Some kids swung their feet, so gnomes had to duck. Other kids stomped their feet because their loud mouths were not loud enough for them. If gnomes didn't dodge the stompers, they would get squished. Then there were the sliders and fidgeters. Human kids were all energy, and some of them just couldn't sit still. This was tricky for gnomes. Their feet would suddenly slide out and might come back just as fast. Let me put in a missing word there. They might get nervous and start kicking out of nowhere. You had to be ready to move when you were under a table full of kids. Let me add a missing word there. Going to make the story longer just putting in all the words I missed. That was all before you even got to the part about collecting food. Cafeteria gnomes started living in cafeterias when they figured out how sloppy kids could really be. Food was dropped all the time. Half sandwiches, french fries, chips, wrappers with chocolate or icing still stuck to them, and all sorts of other delicious crumbs could come raining down any day at any meal. If you were a quick, nope, that's not what I want to say. If you were quick, you could get the food before one of the fidgety kids planted their foot in the middle of it. If you weren't quick, then you had to eat your lunch with a shoe print on it. Then, if there wasn't a lot dropped one day, you had to lick the food off the bottoms of their shoes. Humans would think that sort of thing was gross, but cafeteria gnomes didn't mind the taste of shoe. They couldn't be picky if the cafeteria floor was their home. Not much was dropping that day. A few crumbs tumbled down here and there, but they were small even for gnomes. Lunch was going by pretty fast. It looked like they might be hungry until dinner. Tina, I have to do something. Look out, she said. A kicker almost got him, but just lifted off his red hat instead. He tried 3 times to get it back off the kid's shoe, but Tina finally snagged it, moving him down across from one empty seat and placed it back on his head. What do you need to do? She asked. I need to get some food on the floor. Tina just sort of stared at him as the other gnomes stood around waiting for anything to drop. Are you going to knock over a tray? You know we have to get special permission for that. No, I have another idea to get kids to drop the food for us. Tina shrugged and said, well, okay, I'll help any way I can. Skippy led her farther down the table as he collected a couple spoons, a hard piece of gum, and a little smudge of chocolate pudding off one of the tables. Are you... let's change this. Say thick instead of little. A thick smudge of chocolate pudding off one of the table legs. Are you going to eat that? Tina asked as she licked her lips. No, I'm going to throw it. What? Are you out of your mind? All right, let me put a question mark there. Are you out of your mind, Skippy? That's crazy. I have a plan. Tina said nothing as she watched and waited. Skippy placed the hard gum on the spoon on one of the spoons and took aim. Then he heaved the gum through the air with all his might. It hit a girl in the back of her head. She turned around and shouted, "Who threw that?" A few kids stopped eating to look, but none of them seemed all that interested. "What are you doing?" Tina asked. "Hold on, I need to do this next part quick." Skippy positioned the old pudding on the other spoon and quickly hurled it the other way. The chocolate mess spread out and splattered 3 boys in a row. Other kids jumped up from that table and moved their trays. The boys groaned. "What is this? It's cold and stinks. Who did that? I'm telling." Tina watched for a moment and then asked, "What are you trying to do?" Get more food on the floor." "You're just going to get the kids in trouble," she said. Skippy smiled. "You haven't seen anything yet." Camp counselors crossed the room to see what the kids were yelling at each other about. Then Skippy took a deep breath. Need to add that. Took as deep a breath as a gnome can. He cupped his hands around the sides of his mouth and he yelled, "Food fight!" Kids from several tables around him got quiet. The gnomes under all the tables froze and stared at Skippy like he had gone crazy. "Have you gone crazy?" Tina asked. Skippy whispered, "I thought it would work. That sort of thing only works in movies." But then something happened. A fresh piece of cake flew across the room. It splattered on a boy's shirt and then tumbled under the table. Several gnomes ran for it. Hey, what was that for? You threw old pudding at us." "No, I didn't. I saw you." Then spaghetti noodles launched in the air. After that, half-eaten garlic bread. Let's say sword. I already did launched. Sword from all 4 corners. Salad spread out through the air next. A lot of kids didn't eat their salad anyway. Gnomes loved floor salad, though, and they ran. Let me fix a typo there. They ran to gather as much as they could. Then the French fries filled the air. It's weird that cafeterias serve French fries as an option with spaghetti, but gnomes think it's great. Counselors shouted for everyone to stop. They got splattered for getting in the way. Kids that had no idea what started this joined in anyway. Now the air and floor were full of food. It was more than the gnomes could eat or carry, but they did their best. As gnomes ran by Skippy, they smiled at him with their arms and mouths full. "Great work. My family will eat well today. You're the best." Gnomes are okay with talking with their mouths full. Human parents don't care for that as much, though, as some of you may know. Okay. Skippy was smiling too until he looked at Tina and saw she had her arms crossed. "What's the matter with you?" "I'm in charge of quality control with you, Skippy. You should have run this by me." "Okay, sorry," he said. Isn't it great, though?" She looked around at all the chaos and said, "I don't know, it looks dangerous." Skippy looked around, too. Kids were running everywhere. A few of them slipped and fell. He didn't want that. The camp counselors were mad and threatening all sorts of punishments, including not letting them eat inside. That might mean no dinner. Skippy realized he might not have thought this all the way through. "We should get out of here," Tina said. Most of the other gnomes had the same idea and had run back toward the serving tables and their tunnels hidden beyond those, but they had all stopped at the ends of the eating tables. There were a lot of feet moving around out there. "We're going to get stepped on for sure," one gnome said, with a long spaghetti noodle sticking out of his mouth. "We have to get everyone out of here safely," Tina said. Skippy tried to think, okay, here's what we can do. We're already used to dodging human feet. We just need to time our running. We won't all go at the same time. The gnomes took turns. Tina and Skippy waited until there was a space and told the next group to go for it. Each group of gnomes managed to make it across and down the tunnels without getting squished. Tina and Skippy were the last two left. Then the cafeteria got quiet. The counselors paced around as they gave a long and angry lecture to all the kids. What do we do? Need to fix a wrong word there. What do we do? Skippy asked. Just wait, Tina said. They'll stop eventually and we'll get a chance to go. But then the angry lecture ended and one of the counselors said, every last one of you will need to clean up this entire room. Start now. The kids all grumbled, but they started collecting trays, sweeping, mopping, throwing the messy food into trash cans. What a waste. What a waste of perfectly good floor food. Skippy wondered if it might be a good idea to become trash can gnomes instead. He'd bring it up at the next meeting if he and Tina ever got out of here. All right. I like that. Last page. Oh no, Skippy said. He and Tina kept having to run one way or the other to avoid getting caught by all these cleaning kids. They hid behind chair legs, hung from the bottom of the table, and hid underneath globs of spaghetti until no one was looking. I'm sorry, Tina, Skippy said. I'll never start a food fight again. We'll get out of here. Just be ready. The cleaning was almost over, and the last two gnomes were running out of places to hide. We have to go for it, Tina said. Skippy took a deep breath. Okay, let's go. They dodged between chairs and ran as hard as they could. That moment was the first time Skippy wished they didn't wear such bright red hats. That made 0 sense. Let me fix this. I got a homophone mistake here. That made 0 sense trying not to get seen by kids in a cafeteria. He thought maybe they should get hats the same color as the floor. He'd bring that up at the next meeting too, he decided. Alright, Tina and Skippy raced out from under the table, ran under the serving stations, and down into the tunnels. Did you see that? One kid asked. No, what was it? There is so much gum under this table. I can't believe we eat here. It's so gross. Just keep cleaning, a counselor ordered. Tina and Skippy stood in the tunnel trying to catch their breath. That was a wild first day, Tina said. Yeah, sorry, Skippy said. I'll include you in decisions from now on. Tina asked, what did you get to eat? Skippy slapped his forehead that was smeared with sauce. With all that going on, I forgot to get anything. Me too, Tina said, but don't worry, I saved some old pudding from yesterday. We can share it. It has a shoe print in it, but it's still good. The gnomes went down through their tunnels to go share some lunch.